Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. This is Terry Timmons, Account Manager at FYIsoft, and I'm just going to go through a few slides at PowerPoint here, and then just a few, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jason. He's going to go through FYIsoft software for financial reporting. Sound good? Okay, we'll get started. So just a little intro on FYIsoft. We're founded in 2012. And you can see representative sample, some of the name brands you might recognize of our clients on the right-hand side there. And so why do clients choose FYIsoft? And what they're telling us is they choose FYIsoft to simplify report creation, to automate report distribution. We have a powerful report distribution engine, and empower users to drill down. You can drill down all the way from the company level or consolidated level to company level through divisions, departments, and the transaction level, even to the transaction detail, and even a copy of the invoice. Jason can show you all this during the demo. And also for easier multi-company consolidation. So if you've got an organization, it doesn't have to be a big organization, but if you've got multiple entities that need to be consolidated and you got a lot of data, we can help with that too. And the bottom line, we're going to help you speed up your month-end close. And we work with really over 20 general ledgers now. And there's some names there you're familiar with, and of course, Crestwood works a lot with Acumatica and others. And let's say you have a company that runs your general ledger with Acumatica, and you were to acquire another company, say running in Microsoft Dynamics or Sage or whatever, but you did not want to migrate everyone to Acumatica right away, and still wanted to do consolidated financial statements. You can do that with FYIsoft. You can run the consolidated financial statements with 2 or more general ledgers. All right. And just an overall summary of the solution at a glance. We provide board ready management reporting for you. We have the automated report distribution we talked about and the powerful consolidation engine. And we're going to take a look today at the architecture of FYIsoft, sort of the building blocks or reporting components, as you see in the lower right-hand side. It's going to talk about the rows, columns, and organizations. And you'll see that the architecture is very familiar to you, perhaps if you used FRX or MR in the past, for example. And do we have any questions right now before I turn it over to Jason for the presentation?
Nope, not yet.
Nothing yet. Okay, so take it away, Jason.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Terry. Appreciate that. I'm going to actually slide over. Sorry if this is blurry for just a second. Okay, great. So Report FYI is 100% web-based, so it's cloud-driven. You can get into your report writer from any HTML-based web browser, right? So we recommend Chrome and Edge. Firefox is fine. We don't have a lot of people that use it, but if you do, that's okay. Personally, I like Chrome. So that's what I'm using today. And simple, just user ID and password credentials like any other site that you log into, right? So where I want to start today is over here on the left-hand side. You'll see this is what we call our navigation panel. So anywhere we want to go within Report FYI, this is sort of, I call it the steering wheel, because this takes me wherever I want to go in the report writer. At the top, underneath FYIsoft, there's 3 tabs here. There's Develop, there's Request, and there's View. These vary by license type. So if you have just a view-only license, or what we call a viewer license, then you'll have much less options within the software, but you will have view-only access to your reports. And that includes being able to drill down to transactions and even below transactions to scanned images or documents if you guys have those. Request is a different license. If we call that the publisher license, they have the ability to run reports and distribute, versus viewers can just read and view reports. And then Develop, if you have an author license, this is sort of the power user, developer, or develop reports, or author, or design. Different software companies use different words. We call it an author. So to get started, I'm just going to run a report that I built. And so whenever you select a report to run, the first page you're going to come to, default landing page, this is what it looks like. And so for any report in Report FYI to run, it needs 3 components. So if I back up 1 second, I press the back button. Our architecture is what we call a component-based architecture. So you build 3 components and add those to build a report. So those components are a row definition, a column definition, and then an organization definition. And we're going to go into all of those so we can show you how we build each of those in order to build a report. But for now, I'm just going to run a report quickly so I can show you sort of what does that look like and what's the speed of the software. When I press the submit report button, it's going to take me through 5 screen little wizard. It doesn't take a long time, it's very quick, but it's 5 screens. Okay, so the first screen is the date picker. Now I have all my demo data back in 2016. Sorry about that. My demo data is back in 2016. So that's literally what I'm going to pick. And that's it. Then, okay, so the second screen is what we call our distribution screen. So one of the most powerful features of Report FYI is the automated distribution feature. And this is where we tell the report writer to go ahead and use that. Okay, so there's a checkbox here, right? Use distribution from organization. And I'm going to show you how we create distribution lists and then we attach them to every leg of the organization, which is an organization is just your roll-up structure, how your company reports. Okay, so we're going to go through that when we build our organization out. This is where, now this defaults to not being checked. That was for the sanity of the accounting and finance staff so that whenever accounting is posting entries, they can run reports to check that it's affecting the statements the way that they expect without notifying everybody in the company what they're doing. But when you are ready to send out statements and have people review and get back to you, then that's when you say, okay, check that engine or check that checkbox. That sort of engages the automated distribution engine. And then we have the option or ability to notify our users by email. Okay, so then you'll have a subject line and then the body of your email, as well as the ability to attach reports. So you can attach them to different formats. The most commonly used are PDFs, Excel, and then Excel with formula. So sometimes I'll choose this option if I'm sending to an analyst who might want to do more work on the report when they get it and not have to rebuild the subtotals and totals. So Excel with formula just means with the formulas intact. For today, I'm just going to run it as a PDF. I hit next. The third screen is what's called a scheduler screen. So we have built the scheduler in, it's native within the software, so you don't have to rely on like a third-party service in order for to schedule reports to run. So if we wanted to run a report, let's say like a sales or operational type report, let me take a step back. I don't think this particular scheduler has any value when it comes to month-end type reports, right? As the controller and the accounting staff, you know when they're ready to run, so you just run those when you're ready. But let's say you have a sales or operational style report. So for instance, back in my day, I was an analyst for a long time before I got into software business with here at FYIsoft. I ran some FP&A departments for a couple companies in Atlanta. At one of those companies, I supported 26 sales individuals. And every day I had to update a daily sales report. So that all of my sales guys and the executives were waiting on that report every day until I ran it, which meant that I had to be in early every day to run it because everyone was waiting on the report. But if I select run multiple times, I can go ahead and have this report run daily, and I can pick the time, let's say 5 a.m. And when I hit next, then it means that this report's going to run every day at 5 a.m. So, and then on the previous screen, we said, yes, automated distribution engine, and go ahead and distribute to everybody in the distribution list. So essentially, I can automate both the generation and distribution of reports if it's something I wanted to do. So that's a pretty cool capability built right in the software. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just run it once today. And then this is just a summary. Like this is everything you selected. And I'm going to hit submit, and the report's going to run. Here's the status screen. I'm going to try and hit refresh. Dang. Okay, so I was trying to hit refresh fast enough that it would tell you what it was doing, because normally it'll say processing. There's a little pop-up that lets you know when the report's done running. So it'll normally say processing, and it'll tell you where, so on what server am I running on, and how far along am I. But our latest release is version 7.2, and it runs so fast that I don't even have the time to hit the refresh button. My report's done. And just to put some data to that to make it relevant, so what this report I'm running here, if you see, there's the automatic distribution engine. So I just got the email, okay, that my report's done. I'm going to get to because I'm on multiple distribution lists. So what you'll see what this report is doing is consolidating about 15 different divisional or department P&Ls to be exact, across 3 different companies. So we have retail set up as its own company, hotels as a company, and then holding co, which it's really just corporate and it's made up of overhead basically. But in this company example, we breaking that out. So it's running 15 department P&Ls across 3 different companies and then consolidate into one. And it does that against a database of it's 35,598 records. And it runs it in about 2 or 3 seconds. So that's just, I throw that data out there so that you can do quick math on what does my report require of the system, and then you can compare it to what your current system may be processing or whatever speed your current system is working at. Hopefully that makes sense. Most times I'm doing demos individually, and so there's places where I ask for feedback, and usually that's one of them. But today I'm talking to a whole bunch of people, so I'll just keep going, and then obviously if we get any questions, they'll let me know. I'm going to grab a little bit more real estate here. Okay, so that's what a report looks like when we're done. What I want to do now, if you guys don't mind, is, so I'm going to have to drag this over. I was prepared to, I had everything on my other screen, and then I needed to move it over here. So here's where the report ran just a minute ago, and here's the PDF that I attached, and as well as here's a link that I included in the body of the email. So the reason I do that, having run FP&A departments myself, I would prefer to have users log into the system and use the drill down capabilities that I'm about to show you, rather than have them look at their static reports and then that's it, right? Because the report's just static. There's no more information when you get to once you get to your P&L, right? So I click the button. A lot of people ask, okay, Jason, why doesn't it take me right to the report from that link? And the reason is simply security. So when it takes you to the login screen, we want you to authenticate to get in, just in case, I don't know. If that link were live directly to a report, then what would happen is if you could, that report, that email could get forwarded to anybody, and if that link were live, then it's in my system, right? With no authentication, and that wouldn't make any sense, right? So what I'm showing you here is same org structure that I was showing on my other screen, but I'm logged in now as Bob. So Bob is the IT department manager within the hotel division. So in our reporting tree, you're going to see our organization tree. You'll see little red X's next to most of these departments. So I can try to select those, but it won't display any report. It won't generate. The only one that will display, there's no red X next to IT 200. Okay, so that makes sense because that's Bob's department. He's the manager of the IT department within the hotel division. And so when I select his department, he can see his P&L. So essentially what this does is it's just demonstrating how the security works. And so again, I'm going to go into the nuts and bolts of how we build this and set up the security. It's very, very easy, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. One thing I do want to point out in our latest release, you also have the ability to put your company logo on your reports. So I have the little beautiful FYIsoft in there, but you guys can add yours, and it's very, very easy. I can show you how to do that as well. Okay, so I'm Bob, right, and I'm reviewing my monthly P&L, and I'm looking for big variances. So in my experience, we spend a lot of time looking at OpEx or SG&A for variances, and in my opinion, it's because it's usually, SG&A in my opinion is pretty easy to budget and also pretty easy to manage too. So when you start to have big variances, people ask a lot of questions. At least that's my experience. So I look through here and I'm looking for either big dollar or big percent variances. So I see some real large percent variances, but the first one I see that's big dollar is professional services and fees. So 62,000 bucks, but that's 55% over. So that bothers me as an analyst because that means I either got my forecast pretty darn bad or there's some expenses in here that I wasn't aware of, okay? So what I do, this is how the drill down works. I single left click that line item. And it's important to know before I do that, the drill down viewer follows the tree. And actually I'll have to do that I'm gonna start from a higher level because I'm already pretty far down. I'm 3 levels down from consolidated, right? As I log in as Bob, I'm logged into the hotel specifically and then IT within hotel specifically. But anyway, so if I click on this line item, single left click, it'll drill me down to the account level. Okay, so there's 2 accounts that make up that line item of that P&L. And then here, the account with the majority of the activities here with the 174K in it. So I'm going to, again, single left click that. And now where I'm at is the transaction level detail. Okay, so this is every transaction that hit that account, you know, that ultimately hit the line item for the month. And this is what's driving this, you know, the spend or the overrun on that particular line item for Bob. Makes sense? So what I love about the drill down viewer capability is that essentially I'm given management reporting, right? Department or divisional managers, accounting level information, right? Because this is literally the transactions that hit the general ledger. Okay, so that I've given them very detailed information, but they're not in my GL. Okay, it's just it's GL extracted data specific to them. So that's why we set the security up to where we know who's getting what reports, and we keep it specific to the person that should get the report. It's kind of like we like the phrase right people, right information to the right people at the right time. And I'll show you again how we set that up in just a second. So in addition to, this is transaction level detail. If you happen to have a document management, if you happen to have a document management system or you're scanning invoices now, or even if you don't have a standalone document imaging system, but you have a shared folder in the accounting department that's on the network where Report FYI sits, then we can create a link to those scanned images and attach it, or actually there's a link to the image, and you can attach it to the transaction detail file. So in this scenario, for instance, if Bob doesn't recall, if I go back to the report, if Bob doesn't recall, he goes, okay, I understand most of this, but I don't recall spending $46,000 with Blue Solutions. If he clicks on it, he gets to his invoice. Okay, now there's no way to refute this. You go, oh yeah, I remember that. Those consultants, they were a lot of money, or they weren't that much money for the amount of work they did for us. This was a steal, whatever the case may be. But now when he gets to that invoice level detail, right, now he should have crystal clarity, right? And I love this too, because the back of my day was, so when I did this, and one of the companies where I ran FP&A, we had our finance was separate from accounting. And anytime we had discrepancies in our statements and P&L or balance sheet, but specifically P&L, and I had to, you know, basically investigate what those big variances were for the department or division managers, right? So I would literally have to leave. I was on the 4th floor, go down to the 3rd floor to accounting, interrupt the accounting clerk's day, the AP clerk's day, have her take me to the filing cabinet where the invoice was that drove that transaction detail, right? And then get the invoice, then take that back to my division manager and say, I don't know if this was coded correctly. Was this supposed to be our department or not? If it was, this is a cost overrun because it wasn't forecast. Right? With having the imaging system, you can get that answer. In fact, the accounting or finance doesn't even have to have it because Bob has access to it. So you cut out. It's very powerful, in my opinion. It's a huge time saver because you cut out a lot of time in the month-end close process if people can get the answers to their questions very, very quickly. And especially when you have management level people getting their answers quickly and they never had to bother, not really bother, I shouldn't say bother, but interrupt what accounting and finance was already doing. So hopefully that makes sense. That's a new feature in our tool, and I like it a lot, just having done that for a while. Is there any questions so far, or are we good to go?
We're good to go for now. Just a reminder, everyone, feel free to send your questions in, and I'll go ahead and interrupt the guys. Or interrupt Jason, I should say. But for now, I think we're okay. You can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, so all I was thinking about is maybe as I go through stuff and people might have questions about the features that I demo, that's all. So as they feel free to interrupt me when those come along. Okay, so that's great, Jason. You ran a report, it was fast, it's easy, it's drill down, fantastic. How do I build it? That's a great question. Here we go. So I go back to my report definition. Again, this is where we started, where we had to run it when we submit request. And there's the 3 components that make it up. So let's build one. So let's go into the org definition. Just click on it. It'll come up. I'm going to hit expand all here, so it shows my entire tree. All right. And here's how we build the roll-up structure or your trees for you. So whatever's the lowest level you want to report on, we need to create basically a shortcut for the software to get that or to know that. And we do that in our masking column here. And we're going to mask or use wildcards for certain segments of our accounting key to set this up right. Okay. So we use the @ symbol for accounts, and then we use the asterisk for sub accounts. So the way to read this is, so you can kind of relate it to what your accounting key might be. This is all accounts and all sub accounts for company 100. That's the first 3 digits here. And then department 001. So in this example, 001 is accounting. Okay, makes sense? Hotels is set up different. We use masking on the same segments on the main account or natural account and sub accounts, but we have company 200. So we're literally, depending on how your database is set up and your GL, it might just be a different company code or a different branch flow code, a branch code in Acumatica, okay? Or if it's Sage 100, it may even be its own database. To us, it doesn't matter. It's all we have to do is connect to it and map it correctly, and then we build our masks. This is very, very easy. And we do this, what I call for you, with you in training, if you're to buy the solution, typically Crestwood does it because they're one of our strongest partners and they know the software really, really well. So the training is kind of like with you, for you. So they help you build components because you'll be live in your environment where the data will make more sense. And either us or Crestwood will build the components with you and for you. The second most important column on this particular page or in the organization definition is this distribution list column. Okay, and this is important because this is how we set up the automatic distribution engine, which is one of my favorite features of our software. So if I'll call out to you the hotel's IT department, that's the only one that's unique on this particular page. I set this up because this is how I'm getting the reports to Bob. So if I do a click down here, drop down, I can add as many distribution lists as I want to a leg of the tree. I recommend only having one. I think it's cleanest and easiest to manage. You can do more than one if you like, but I like having just one. But at the same time, I also highly recommend having one for every leg. I wouldn't leave any legs blank. I would have them because at least at the end of the day, at least the controller and CFO are going to want access to all legs, right? And then whoever else in accounting or finance needs access to all legs. So I would have a distribution list for all of them. So that being said, okay, I attached hotel IT department to the IT department of the hotel division. Very clever of me, huh? So let's go on our distribution list. Again, I'm over here in the navigation panel. This is how I go anywhere and everywhere within the software. So hotels IT department's here. Let's click on that. So the software is asking me, hey, you made changes. Are you sure you want to leave? Because you didn't save those changes. So it'll remind you every time you make a change and don't save. In this case, I don't want to save those changes, so it's okay to leave. So it's going to take me to that distribution list, hotels IT department. Oh, I forgot these from yesterday, Terry. So typically I only have Bob here as an assigned user. That's who's supposed to get his report. If you guys, this is sort of funny to me, maybe not so much to you guys. So Bob's supposed to get that, and then Bob's emails go to me, okay? I added in a demo yesterday, Dan and Grace, or actually this morning, which Grace was my old boss and Dan's my new boss. So both my bosses got the demos reports. So every time I run a demo, they get it, which is not good news for me, by the way, guys. But so it's very easy to add users or take them off like I just did to the assigned users or the distribution list. So anyone who has a license in your company will be listed here as an available user, okay? And so like I had Dan on here, and then I had Grace. Okay, so maybe they're Bob's boss, and then, you know, and then Dan's boss. Maybe they need to get that same department P&L too. So that's how we add them to our list. But the beauty of this is the simplicity of it. We designed it to be really simple so that this is also controlling the security of who is allowed to see what legs of the organization. Make sense? So I'm saying only Bob can have the is attached to the leg that's the hotel IT department, and that's the only person who's going to get it, except for myself as an author, and I have clearance to everything. You can set that up too. So just for simplicity, for like the controller and CFO, you can set it up with your license credentials where you automatically have access to everything. So it's pretty simple to set up, and we did that by design so that accounting and finance could be in charge of who gets what. All right, and the idea being that we found if you put in, you know, you guys know the turnover faster than the IT department. So having a request from IT changes in permissions so that certain people can get certain things, that typically takes more time than if you just did it yourself, or you or your staff did it yourself. So we made it super simple. Accounting and finance can manage permissions for the users that need to get their reports. Make sense? While I'm here, I want to cover packages real quick, and I'm going to do that because really because it's very similar in design structure to our distribution list functionality. So let me go to management reporting here. This again was another design feature where I guess the overall idea or theme of the software was to take time out of the month-end close. And a lot of the places where we try to do that is on the administrative side, what I call administrative tasks of month-end close. So things like running reports, saving them to shared folders, opening up Outlook, creating a recipient list, emailing it out. By the way, when you do that, there's room for human error too, right? I don't know if anybody on the call has ever sent the executive department to the IT manager, but if you have, it's probably a bad day for you. But when you have the distribution list set up, that can't happen. So you set up your distribution list, you run the automated distribution, that doesn't happen. Everyone gets the right reports. There are no human errors from that perspective. Make sense? Okay, sorry about that. I digress. The packages are very similar. So every to distribution lists, right? So every report that you have written in Report FYI will be available as an available report, and then you can add those to the package. So this one we called it management reporting for senior level management. So this is execs. And right, typically you're going to send the executives more than just the P&L. So your department or division managers may have P&L responsibility, but you're probably not going to send them a balance sheet and a cash flow. That's typically reserved for the executives, right? Controller and executives. So, but they do need more information. So let's say we wanted to send them the balance sheet, cash flow, and a very specific P&L all at one time. So we can do that. We can run a package instead of individual reports, and they'll get an email when their package of reports is ready. So that's pretty neat. Save you a little bit of time, and then you save that time every single month or every time you run it, because instead of running 3, you're running 1. Make sense? So let's go back to my report definition. I always like to, when I'm editing or modifying components, I can jump to, if I shrink all this up, I can go directly to rows and directly to columns and directly to organizations. So it's easy to jump to those. But sort of my favorite thing to do is to always be running from, I call it base camp, which is my report definition, so that I know I'm editing the specific report that's my goal to edit. Okay, you don't have to do it this way. It's just by habit, it's by nature for me. So you can get to it multiple ways. Just sort of like Windows. There's like several ways to get to almost anything in Windows, and that's true in FYIsoft or Report FYI. So I covered everything that I wanted to cover on organization definition. Okay, so what I'd like to do next is jump into the row definitions. Here you'll see, this is just the row definition on that P&L that I ran earlier. So we have our descriptions, You can copy paste these out of an Excel file if you have them in Excel or even a Word document, but you get to copy and paste them in here, so you don't have to type everything over. There's 6 row types. These are pretty self-explanatory: description, underscores, calculations. So anywhere you have a calculation, you're going to have obviously a calculation in the calculation column. Assign RV stands for row value, or assign row value. This is a row type that was designed so you can create a percentage of revenue column on like a P&L. And all it's doing is locking down or creating a row value in order to do the calculation. So basically, it's the denominator of a percent of revenue calculation on your P&L. That's what assign RV means. So anywhere you see GL, that's where you're mapping your accounts. Okay. So there's several ways to bring counts back in Report FYI. The first way is with wildcards. So this says any account that starts with 45, no matter what the account ends in, bring back on my services line on it. For consulting, I need these accounts, all accounts from 4,300 to 4,400. Okay, just simple little range. And then product revenue is also a range of accounts, and in fact, it's a grouping of accounts. So we call this an account collection. And then we gave it a name. So we defined it, and that makes it an account collection. So product revenue JDM, let's see what that looks like. So we'll go to our account collections. Product revenue, JDM. And then, so this is just, it started out as just a range, 4,100 to 4,200. But let's say in the middle of a month, there was an anomaly, we had to add an account, and we didn't have any accounts left between 4,100 and 4,200, right? So controller picks 4,250. So we say, okay, go into the account collection definition, product revenue, add that account, okay, hit save. So what happens now, everywhere in the software that you used product revenue JDM, account collection on a line item of a report would have just updated. So idea being, if you use product revenue, and let's call it 5 different reports within Report FYI, then by adding that one account, 4,250, to the definition, the account collection, then it updated all 5 reports that are using this account collection. So the way I like to think of it is like a global edit versus an individual report edit. All right, or another way to think about it would be like an Excel model where you have a control page or an assumptions tab, and you update a number there, and then the whole model, it rolls through the whole model and updates everything. That's sort of what the account collection is doing too. And don't worry, if you don't have your chart of accounts memorized, it's not a problem. You hit the binocular button, you hit account, and then here's your entire tree. So when you're writing reports, you don't have to have your chart of accounts memorized. We have it for you. All right. Well, the example that was on the screen when I came into this was in the same thing in account collection, you can remove accounts too. So the example that was there when we logged in here was, let's say account 4160. We don't want to, it's an old account number. I still need it in my row definitions for one of my line items, but it doesn't really belong in product revenue anymore, okay? Or maybe it doesn't belong in P&L at all, but likely it does, but just in a different line item. But if I hit remove and I put that account in there and I hit save, again, everywhere that product revenue was used within the software just got updated. All right, so that's pretty powerful. I like that a lot. And just like I was recommending having a distribution list for every leg of your organization, I would also recommend on any row definition where you have more than one account that makes up that line item, I would give it an account collection name. Actually, let me go back. Let me show you what I would do. So I would just name it, whatever the name of the line item is, that's what I would name it. But I would name anything like payroll and benefits. I have a whole bunch of accounts in here, right? So this is just an example that you don't have to name, and you also don't have to arrange. You can just plug them in and add them, okay? So that's fine too. But I personally, if I was setting up a report for my company, I would set this up with, I would call it literally payroll and benefits account collection. All right, so that's just a feature I wanted to point out there. The other thing that account collections does, let me go back for just a second. Another thing I like about it is this. If you're, let's just say we put that 4250 back in there, right? 4250, 4250. So if your chart of accounts is not perfect, and we hope that it's perfect, as you know, as accounting and finance people, we would love for our chart of accounts to be perfectly sequential, but we all know things happen, then sometimes they're not perfectly sequential. Okay, so if there are other accounts that are like, maybe they're even in the 4400s for some odd, weird reason, but if it didn't fall in the 4100 to 4200 range was your original intent to be product revenue, it's not a problem. You don't have to go, you know, redo your GL or clean your GL up or anything. You can have the report writer do it for you, which is far less work. So that's another reason I like account collections a lot, because it takes far less work than trying to restructure a chart of accounts. I think if I have any controllers on the phone, they would agree. Oh, I'm trying to leave again without saving changes, and it's warning me. Let's just check if I covered everything in row definitions I wanted to cover. Calculations are really, really simple. I mean, so simple that it's sort of not even relevant or, you know, worthy of spending time on it. You can reverse assign. So for your income accounts, you just reverse assign so they don't show as negatives. Present style. So this stands for presentation style. And you can create as many as you need in order to make your reports look nice and pretty so that when you run them and distribute them, they're perfect looking, what we call board ready. You can have as many as you'd like, whatever is necessary to make them look the way you want. However they look today, you can pretty much make it look in our report writer too. I find I only use 3. I use headings, subtotals, and totals, and that's about it. But just want to point that out that that's there. And that covers it for row definitions. Last but not least is column definitions. If you have any experience with FRX, these will look very, very familiar. So does most of the software, but that's just because it's architecture based, and so is FRX. But if you don't, it's okay, it doesn't matter. It's very, very simple software to learn. It's very intuitive. So in this column definition, we're just bringing the actuals back. The report writer is smart enough to know, it's tied to your general ledger, right? So it knows what book code it is, whether it's an actual or a budget number. Then you can put calculation columns in, right? So mine was a dollar variance and a percent variance on the month. And then I have the same thing for year to date. So I have actuals, I have budget, a dollar variance and a percent variance. One thing I do want to point out on row columns is, let me show you one that's a little bit more sophisticated or involved or savvy or whatever name you might want to use today. This one has a percentage of revenue built into it. So in the calculation here, this is that row value 1. Okay, so I'm taking C divided by that row value, which is just total revenue. Okay, and that's how I get a percent of revenue to calculate. And then I put a little format mask on it so it still shows up as a percentage. What I wanted to show here was that this company wanted actual budget and then prior year, as well as they wanted to do quarter to date, not just year to date. So you can have quarter to date show up too. And you can do that by defining the range, the period range. So we did the range from 04 to 06. So period 4, 5, and 6 was Q2. And then when you run your date in the date picker, it's going to take whatever date in the date picker is and then go back to the first number in the range, and it's going to bring that back for the quarter to date numbers, whether it's an actual or a budget. So that one's a little bit more savvy, and I like it, so I like to show that. Another question we get a lot on columns is, let's say you have 9 different departments or divisions that make up your total, and you want to, let's say, have those across the top, and then with a total out here. I should add a total here to this example, but let's just say, and this example is 3. So I want a 1-page P&L, but I want to be able to see each department individually and then a total for my company. So I got it all on 1 page. That's not a problem. You can do that in Report FYI. The way we do that is in the column definition, there's an account filter down here, and so you can filter columns on any segment of your key. So to put departments or locations across the top, then we're just going to filter by locations, right? 001, 002, and 004. Okay, very simple stuff, but that's a popular question we get a lot. One thing I'll point out here too as well, you'll see on your screen that this is checked out to someone else in my organization, so another person with an author license. So because the way our report writer works is all of the components are stored centrally. They're not on any one person's local machine, or it's not like an application that sits on your local machine. Okay, everything is stored centrally, so everyone who has an author license can get to it. Okay, so but at the same time we had to build in protection so that no two authors were editing the same thing at the same time, right? And so that's what happens when you see the orange box up here says somebody else in my organization has it checked out, and if I want to edit this, then that has to be checked in by that user. If that user were ever to not be with the company anymore, then the admin can always has the override capabilities where you can go log in as an admin and check in components that happen to be checked out by a person that's not with the company anymore. So there's always there's always a way around it. It's software at the end of the day. Huh? The other thing to point out about columns is really that you can have as many as you possibly need to satisfy your requirements. I have a lot, okay, but this is my demo system, so I've built a lot of stuff for different people. So really, that's it on columns, and that's really what, if I summarize for a second, reports are made up of three things, right? Rows, columns, and organizations. So we just went through, I ran a report for you, and we went through organizations first, then rows, then columns, and that makes up, that's how you make a report. So that's sort of the report writer in a snapshot. One thing I do want to do, I'm going to go back to rows. Actually, let me start from my report. Remember, I tell you, I really like driving from a report. Oh, and here's a good, the other place to know who has something checked out is when you'll see a little icon in front of the component name. Okay, so if you see a little padlock icon, that means someone else has it checked out, and so an author has that checked out, and no other authors can edit it. They can view it, but they can't edit it. If it has a green check mark, then that means I have it checked out. No one else in my company can check it out. And then if it has no icon at all, it means it's checked in, and any author can check it out and edit it. Okay, so that's what that means. And also at the same time, it's checked out, and so that controllers and CFOs like this a lot because they may get a row definition specifically that's perfect. It ties out to the trial balance. They want it to be reliable, and they want it to be just run it every month and it works, and that's fine. That's when most people check it out. So when they get it perfect, they check it out. But that doesn't mean your staff can't use what you've created and then build from there or take away. Like if you're going to do ad hoc type reporting, that's not a problem at all. You hit save as, and you give it a new name and description, and then with the new name, then now you're the author of it, and you can start editing from there. So you don't have to, once you have components built, you never really have to start from scratch. You're always really just editing. Name it with a new name, so you have your original intact, and then you can edit from there. All right, and then last thing I want to cover, and then I'm going to jump into our analytics tool pretty quickly, is what's called the audit components. Now, being sort of a numbers, finance, geek or dork, whatever name you want to use, I really love this tool because it would have saved me hours and hours and hours in my day of writing reports. But what you can do is select a row definition and hit the audit button, and it'll tell you, well, here's what this tool is doing. It's telling me in this particular row definition, and this is the one I was using on that P&L, it tells me what account I started with, and then what's the last account I used on that particular row definition. And then it's comparing to your chart of accounts, right? Because the software knows your entire chart. And it's saying, okay, this row definition, you started with this one, you ended with this one, but you forgot 6103, which happened to be 401k match. Okay, so it's saying not used. So I love that because instead of spending 2 days looking for an account, well, let's go back. If you don't tie out to your trial balance, instead of spending 2 days looking for why, writing formulas and trying to figure out why, and this happened to me, that's how I know this happens to others, the report writer can do it for me in about 2 seconds, and I'd rather have the report writer do it and save me 2 days. Also, what it'll do, let's say I put the account 6103 in 2 different line items in this row definition. So I'm still not going to tie out to my trial balance because now I'm double counting. It will tell you here in the comment field, it'll say you used twice. So then you just go back to your row definition, you make the change, you run your audit again, and you should be clean. Makes sense? So that's where it has the most value, is when you're first writing the row definition and you're making sure you get it right. And then if in a month, you're probably never going to use it after that. But if there's a month where you run your P&L, doesn't tie to trial balance, first thing I would do is run the audit tool. Just make sure it's not someone added an account and you weren't aware of it, or it's not included in the report. So the audit tool will do that for you, save you a ton of time. It won't save you a ton of time, monthly, but it will save you a ton of time on that, and in that 1/11th hour where you need your time, if that makes any sense. All right, that really covers it for the report writer. Are there any questions at this time?
Nope.
Don't tell me I'm so good I covered everyone's question.
Yes, you have shocked everyone into silence.
Okay, great. One thing I want to do, sorry. Sometimes people ask us questions about Connect FYI, how do we map data? The simple answer is we do that when we implement. We do the mapping from your database to the report writer, and we set up, what does your count key look like and what is your calendar? That's all done through software we call Connect FYI. Very clever. It's the connector, so it's Connect FYI. That's where we do that type of stuff. So data mapping, data transfers. So if you're a cloud customer, we can set up your scheduling for your data transfers there, or actually you do it underneath scheduling, and you can also manually log in and do an instant data transfer if you, like, let's say you're on the 5th day of month-end close, and you just posted an entry and it affected 10 accounts. Well, you can log into Connect FYI, do data transfer, and hit the button, and bam, your new data is over there, and now your reports will be will tie out to your general ledger. And then another thing I want to cover quickly, and I know I'm running a little short on time, but I think I have a few minutes, is our latest, sort of one of the latest things that we've published or I guess created was our analytics tool. It's called FYI Analytics. And it's really, I like it because, we did a drill down to the invoice, and that's a cool feature. I like that a lot too. But in that report, I'm sort of locked into whatever columns I wrote in my column definition, right? So typically it's going to be that month and year to date that I can drill down on. And the analytics tool is a little bit different because we can let me go to ad hoc tab. We can display all of your months at one time. Okay, and then we can do things like, the CFO could say, let's select all companies, okay, and then my data is going to update, and in real time it's updated. But, he or she may say, well, I just want to look at company 100, which would be the retail in this, and instead of all departments, I just want to look at marketing. Okay, it's going to update, and then you can have all your fiscal years here. Just like in my demo system, where I'm using the same data from my demo system, and all of our data is in 2016. So I only have 2 years of data, 15 and 16. But let's say I'm still just looking at 16, and I have all my periods selected, but I could, what if I just want to look at 3 quarters, right? Let's say they asked me if I wanted to take, like, I just wanted the first 3 quarters to show up. Well, I can do that. All right, but I don't. I want to analyze everything in this particular case. And they could say, okay, well, what does just my travel expense look like? And I could have the answer. Right, so in this particular example, marketing department for company 100 only had travel expenses in 2 months, and here was the total for travel for company 100 and the marketing department. So basically, you can drill down and slice and dice very, very quickly, and it's true real world slice and dice in my opinion, because you could accomplish this in Excel, but it would take you a lot of tabs to do it. You couldn't, and it really wouldn't be real time. So let's say they go, okay, that's great, Jason, but how did we spend $10,000 or I'm sorry, $6,000 in airfares? And I can right click and go see records. Okay, and I have my transaction detail there too. All right, so I got that. So it's very, very powerful. I would be dangerous as an analyst in a month-end meeting with a CFO, because I would be able to answer, I'm going to say 99% of any question they could throw at me. right? Because a lot of times what happens, you might be analyzing this month, right? Let's say we're in April. So let's say we were looking at March. But I might get a question, hey, what did we do in January? Well, the report that I have in front of me might not have January data, but if I had my analytics tool, I would be able to get my January data in a matter of seconds. So I can get answers in seconds or minutes versus, let's say, hours or days, right? Instead of saying, sorry, boss, don't have that right here on me. I'll run the report and I'll get back to you by the end of the day or end of the week. You don't have to do that anymore because you'll have the data at your fingertips and you can answer those questions on the fly. This tool has a lot of different things we've built into it. It's got dashboarding. These are all customizable, so you can set up what you want for your particular executives, what they need to see. There's a lot of tools we built in here. They're pretty cool. One of my favorites is the cash tracker. So before I ran the FP&A departments back in the day, I was a turnaround consultant for PricewaterhouseCoopers. So all we did was track cash because we restructured companies that were losing money. So one of the tools I would always build, the first thing I would do when I get there is build a 13-week cash flow and track cash for the CFO. We built a tool that just does it automatically, and it's linked to your data. So this is a cash tracker we built. We did it kind of two ways to satisfy the accounting folks that want like a waterfall, gap cash flow. I call it a waterfall, beginning cash to ending cash, or more of a checkbook type operating, like how much money do I have in a bank cash? We use EBIT plus the change in working capital, so AR and AP in this example. This particular company doesn't have much inventory. So change in AR and AP is really the change in working capital. Add that to my EBIT, that's really my change in true cash. And so that's a cool tool in this, or a cool template that we built in this tool that I really liked a lot. And so there's another page we called Hotel Stats. It's only because we realize not all of our customers have hotels, but we do in our data set. So all we wanted to do here was show that we can combine statistical data or operational data, but non-GL data with general ledger data. So here we're just comparing, revenue or income with occupancy statistics, where we're keeping these statistics in another database or actually in the cloud in an Excel file, and then the system is doing the calculations for us so you can track KPIs. But the point of this is obviously not all of you will have hotel companies, right? But you know what KPIs are specific to you and important to you, and they can be built and customized in the tool so that you can have KPIs update instantly. And that's the other beauty of the analytics tool. Two other beauties, and then I'll stop saying beauty. One is the data that's driving the analytics tool is the same data that's driving your financial statements in the report writer. So to me, that's beautiful as a CFO, because now I know any ad hoc analysis that one of my staff might do, I know it will tie back to my financial statements. Because if it doesn't, at the end of the day, it's meaningless. It's worthless. I can't use it if it doesn't tie out to anything. Okay, but with the analytics tool, you always know it ties out. So that's one. And two is, if you kind of set up your templates or your tabs to be basically your month-end reporting package, well, once accounting's done and everything's posted and they say, yeah, we're done, then you update your data and your analytics tool literally by pressing Get Data. It refreshes every tab or every template within this tool. And then, in my opinion, your month-end reporting is done too. Not your month-end reporting, like your month-end review package, right, is done. Because I could also set it up to have all of these templates, or whichever one of these templates you want, to print out and be your month-end reporting. I guess let me say it different. Be your month-end report. So like you walk into the review meeting and bam, not only do you have your statements, but you have all your visualizations done too. Okay, I'm sorry I talk a lot and I also talk fast. So if there's any questions, if I missed anything along the way, if you want me to review anything we covered, or if there's something I didn't cover that was on your mind, let me know now and we'll cover it.
All right, thank you, Jason. We don't have any questions right now.
Okay.
What you want to talk about before we wrap up for the day?
No, I covered everything that I want to cover. I would say if you have pricing questions or want a demo specific to you guys, then just contact Crestwood, your sales associate at Crestwood, and we work with them. Terry specifically will work with them on pricing for your particular company. And if you would like a demo, the demo is what I just went through. But if you want to ask questions specific to your company and how would we handle it in our software, then you can gladly reach out to Crestwood to set up a demo with us, and we'll tailor it to you.
Thanks for watching. To learn more about our products, visit www.crestwood.com. Hope to see you there soon.